Thank you. Agenda item 1, apologies / opening announcements. I have no apologies, but would want to advise that that joining us online are in no particular order: Councillor John O'Kane, Councillor Liam Mackle, Councillor Thomas O'Hanlon, Alderman Ian Burns, and Councillor Ashley Mallon. And I think that's them all covered. Councillor Ferguson.
Chair, thank you. Just apologies from Councillor Lavery.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. And in terms of opening announcements, the only opening announcement I have is that one of our members is celebrating his birthday today. Now, I'm not sure whether it's 40, 50 or 60, but many happy returns to Councillor Ian Wilson. All right. Okay. Okay, member. So, anyhow, moving on. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. And of course, we can take those as we proceed through the meeting. All right, so no hands or no lights. Agenda item 3, the report of the Head of Economic Development, with 2 items for information. Items, and I suppose here we make the assumption that members have read the reports, and that if there's any questions or queries that they wish to raise, that is grand. So we're on item 3.1, and I have 2 speakers. In fact, I have 3 speakers. I have 4 speakers now, anyway. Councillor Ian Wilson, you're in first.
Thank you, Chair. It's just all positive feedback on our light switch on in 2025. But what is the situation with the report on our Christmas trees? I know we will receive some information on artificial trees for the incoming year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wilson. Going to bring in Paul Tomati. Paul.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Wilson. Christmas trees and Christmas lights sits within Capital Estate Service. There was a events working group that discussed options around that, and I understand that they're coming to potentially for GRS tomorrow night, maybe, I think, or if not, I can get the officers to get in touch with you.
Thank you, Paul. Councillor Wilson, you content and relaxed about that. Next of all, I have Alderman Paul Greenfield.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report that's been brought. Again, very good Christmas, and speaking for the Banbridge and whatever, but just one thing that jumps out, Chair, when we read through the report, the figures from 2024 to 2025 are well down right across the borough in a lot of places, and it's just to know, are we recording it differently? Certainly the Banbridge one's slightly different because of the weather and it's up, but there does seem to be a massive drop-off. I know we made quite a big change to our Christmas events, and I think they're working well when you're at them, but I wouldn't want to see it continue to reduce in such numbers, if I'm reading that right. 3.12, just some of them are down by 1,000 people, some 1,500 people, some 300, the smaller ones, apart from the ones that were impacted by weather. I just wondered, is there anything we need to look at in that there, you know?
Okay, Alderman Greenfield. Going to bring in Paul, Director.
Thank you, Chair, and I'm not sure whether Elaine wants to comment a wee bit further on this, but yeah, no, we did notice that the stats were down. Probably the figures, we get these figures from our, I suppose, external provider, BNL. The robustness of those figures, I suppose, something that we have challenged with them in terms of that, because it felt a whole lot better and more attendance and those sorts of things this year than compared to, 2025 compared to 2024. So we've asked for them in terms of how they do that. I'm not sure if it's a clicker and all those sort of things. It's very hard to do. So I think some of them are assumptions and those sorts of things, and if that's probably carried by different people, then maybe that can skew the figures. But no, we did note that they do look down, albeit it felt like there was more at this Christmas event than there was the previous. So Elaine, I don't know if you want to add anything further to that. Nope.
Okay, Paul, thank you. Alderman Greenfield, you happy enough for that? Okay. Next up, Councillor Kyle.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just want to put on record thanks to the team for what they delivered. And yes, just on a bit about the numbers as well. I was looking at that, I was trying to find the reason for that, but perhaps the 24, we didn't have the twilight markets, with the artisan markets back in again last, in 25, so perhaps that had something to do with it. But I do think going forward it is important that we do involve the local community, school choirs and all of that, and I see that in the report, and I think that's going to be very, very important to help build the Christmas up again. And I know right throughout, be it in our towns or be it our villages and all, it is a time of year that our council does perform well, and to all the officers for the extra work that they put in that. And indeed, the relaxed Christmas, and I know my colleague will be saying something about that shortly, I'm sure, but the relaxed Christmas and everything, and again, start to plan for this year. As we know, the Bleary Business Hub will be out of bounds probably by this Christmas coming, so it is. So as long as we're looking well ahead, so it is. But thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Savage. Going to bring Paul.
Thank you, Councillor Savage. I suppose just in terms of the figures again, maybe carrying on from Alderman Greenfield's comments as well. One part of our plan is to put a bit more of a robust figures around how we count and how we measure attendance at those. There's different variables in terms of doing that, and we'll probably put something in place for ourselves that we can have a bit more reliability on going forward. In terms of the relaxed Christmas, we probably plan to bring a report closer to the time in terms of whether the Bleary Community and Business Centre will or won't be used. It's not definite that it won't be yet. It depends how much we progress the DigiHub project during that period of time. But we're, I suppose, looking at potential alternatives should that be in place. But if there is a possibility that we can continue to keep it at Bleary, I think given the feedback we've had, we probably will try to do that and manage the project accordingly. But if that can't be the case, we'll bring a contingency to members for approval.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Councillor Savage, you happy with that? Yeah. Next up, Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair. And yes, it was really good to see the positive feedback in this report. I'm also mindful that there was really strong constructive enhancements that were suggested through the surveys as well. I know in Banbridge we had a wonderful switch on. There was strong community spirit, local schools involved, community groups. I think that's what made it particularly special. I just wanted to get some reassurance from the Director on the enhancements, because it's important that we do listen to traders and residents in these surveys. And just what do you feel could be improved then for this year's Christmas switch on? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Paul?
Well, thank you, Councillor Ferguson, for your question. I think the community element, which was significant in Banbridge, and we can continue to build on that. We obviously have a finite budget in terms of what we can work to and increase. We do believe the complementary piece with the Christmas stalls coming back, if you like. We know Banbridge had it proved it was a bit of a washout weather-wise. If I can improve the weather, I'll try to do that as well. But listen, we will proactively look at what we can do in terms of improving those. I don't have anything specific. We'll be within the budget. We need to go out to tender a wee bit earlier for ourselves so that we have time to work out what our finalised budget is on those sorts of things. We don't know until we do our support tender for events on that, and then work through that as part of that process. So, but listen, we'll continue to try and improve our Christmas events within the budget that we have.
Okay, thank you, Paul. The next on my list is Alderman Barry.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Paul. And as other councillors have said, I think, Paul, if you could go back to the team and thank them on behalf of us for the work that they do, because as soon as the event's over, then we don't hear from them for a few months, which I'm sure they're glad. But they do immense amount of work. I know the ones that I would work with in the Cusher DEA, they're a really brilliant team. They're invaluable, and they really go the extra mile to try and help to deliver really good Christmases around the towns and and all of that. So please, I know you will, but please do that. In relation to the numbers, I think it would be good to go back to BNL because two things. One, take Tanrigee there, for example. Like there is no way. Like there was 400 selection boxes given out, and there was only 450 people appeared. So there's quite a number of parents gone missing somewhere for those children. And secondly, I had asked the vendors at the end of the evening how they actually done business-wise, because it's always good to find out. And they had said, look, no different than last year, we had a very good year. So there was nothing there to indicate. If you'd have come back and said 1,000 people, right, okay, that would be fair, because it was earlier in November we had it rather than the beginning of December, just the way it worked out. But certainly there was more than 450 people there. And I think that's something that would need to go back with them to question that and get that right. I don't think there was a ticker at the gate this time.
Okay, Alderman Barry, thank you. Paul?
Oh, I still hate them.
We actually did go back to BNL and ask them, and they felt happy to stand over those figures. So, hence going forward, we're going to do our own, I suppose, measures in terms of how we can measure attendance at these events and have something a wee bit more robust. There's different ways to do that, and so we think if we can manage that in-house going forward, then we can probably stand over them and probably answer that question with a lot more clarity.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Members, just be advised that Councillor Mulholland is online. And the other thing I'm picking up, is there a sound issue with online, with any members online? So it's my mind myself, Kevin. Yeah. All right, right. Well, listen, I suppose by way of sort of testing it, next up is Councillor Mackle online.
Hi, Chair. Yes, it's just that, I mean, I've only heard about 10% of what's been said in the chamber this evening because of the sound on the app. It keeps dipping in and out.
Okay, Liam, okay.
Just to make you aware.
Okay. Right. Okay, members, I think...
finish this one here maybe, and then, or do you want to let them come in? I don't know.
Right, we have 3 more speakers on this one, so I think it would be in order maybe if we took a quick 5-minute adjournment and boot it up again and go, because in the end, if members at home are only hearing a very small percentage, that's not really in order. So literally it will be 5 minutes, members. streaming, please. Okay, thank you, members, for your benefit online and for viewers online. Just in terms of a recap, we think we are good to go in terms of the live streaming. And for a recap, we're still on agenda item 3.1. It's an information item, and essentially it's a little bit of a discussion around the Christmas programme that was run in 2025. So we have been adjourned. We're now back, hopefully up and running with everyone able to hear. So I have two further speakers. Councillor Flaherty, you're in next.
Thank you, Chair. Now, one of my I've two wee issues, just two wee things I want to raise. One, I suppose, has sort of been addressed by my colleague, but I want to go a wee bit further with it, if I may. It's regarding, no surprise, the Relaxed Christmas event in Blairey. Director and officers and all involved in it. It was really spectacular. I know a few other colleagues from around the chamber did have the opportunity to visit it, and it just gets better every year. The feedback that I got personally from families who had attended it was just, it was heartwarming, and I hate using words like that because I'm not as soft as I used to be, but it really, and I've said it over the years about that event, like we had some children and families that it genuinely was their first suitable Christmas event, and there's an uncertainty with some of these children, and they were so well cared for in Blairey, so well cared for by the staff. The experience was just amazing. And the other thing to say too is, of course, I think budgets were mentioned by some other colleagues there previously. It is worth saying and worth praising the staff. This event is delivered for a relatively small budget of 22,000. That budget has stayed the same for the last number of years. It has stayed the same for the last number of years, despite the fact that they have increased the number of days that we provide this. They've increased the number of slots, and indeed outlines there that 314 people went through the door. So like that really needs highly commended. And also, as I say every year, we need to drop more money. So find some somewhere, because it can be found for other things in this council, as we're discovering. So I don't see why we can't squeeze a wee bit more out of the pot for this particular event. When it comes to the other issue, which my colleague here touched on, my concern, as I'm sure you were expecting, and as Councillor Savage alluded to, was in relation to the should be availability of Blairey. And I know we're dealing with timelines and with other issues, but should it not be available? I know you've outlined that you're looking at other options. I would like those to be as clear as we can be, because I don't want to be getting to September and October and us having a panic attack about where we're going to put this event, because this is a standout event in the calendar which must take place, absolutely vital. The other thing, just really quickly, about the Portdown event, genuinely great feedback. The same problem persists as always in Portdown, and that is the road closure, and the timings of the road closure, and the way that it just affects the flow of the town. And there's particularly that bottom end of Portdown does still feel a bit left out of the festivities. So I know that's on your agenda from even before Christmas and on the day that this comes up every year. So if we can just please try to avoid that, because we know that problem's coming, it would really benefit those traders at the base end of Portdown. That's the only two comments. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Flaherty. Going to bring in Paul.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Fletcher, for your comments. Lane might be able to talk more specifically about Portadown, but in terms of the Relaxed Christmas, you're right, we have, I think, doubled the timescale in terms of how it is. We've also increased the number of opportunities there are for families to come of which was about on balance this year. We still had some small spare places toward the end of it, as I understand, but it was there or thereabouts. And so when we did double it at that time, that we looked at the budget at that time as well. Listen, we have, and you'll see in the report, absorbed some of the costs associated with delivering Christmas. We know how it is important to members. We've made sure our estimates this year have taken that into consideration as part of that process. And yeah, we'll leave no stone unturned at Christmas, certainly for relaxed Christmas around that. Thank you. In terms of Portadown road closures, I know we had a lot of debate around road closures and various things with all of the events across the borough. Essentially, if you want the Christmas stalls or the markets, you have to have a road closure. And whilst we tried to mitigate and minimise that as much as possible, unfortunately, road closures are inevitable if you want Christmas stalls due to set up and take down costs. Listen, if there's other things we can improve around that and learn on from year to year, then we'll continue to do that. Elaine, I'm not sure if you want to add anything further to that, maybe?
You're not coming up on the screen. There we are now.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Flaherty, for those really positive remarks about relaxed Christmas. It's really good to hear that feedback. In terms of Portadown, yes, we've carried out quite an extensive consultation with all the towns, and the town centre managers went and met individually with a lot of the businesses that were impacted by the road closure, etc. in Portadown. And I can give assurance that that will not happen again. We've taken everybody's feedback on board. Whilst there will be one-way road closures or a single road closure, and that does have to come into effect because of the artisan stalls, unfortunately. But there will not be a full road closure, and we will be trying to minimise that until 4 o'clock in the afternoon for all towns, because we have to be respectful and mindful that it's a key retail time. And whilst we want to have the light switch-ons and it kick-starts Christmas for our towns, that it's a prime sort of day for retail. So that really is taken on board. And in terms of trying to bring more activities to the bottom of the town, again, we're very mindful that everything happens up around Church Street and around the church. So we are trying to look at other activities. And the other important thing that we're trying to do this year, and the feedback from the chambers and from the retailers, is that they would like to see more animation and more vibrancy and more festivities in the towns in the run-up to Christmas on the Saturdays in December. So we're planning to work with the chambers around that. So thank you.
Okay, Elaine, thank you for that. Going to bring in Paul briefly. Paul.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies, Councillor Fletcher. I forgot to answer your question around the relaxed Christmas in terms of the timing of Blairey or alternative options. Probably what we'll do is we'll probably have a quick working group around the options that could be considered prior to committee, certainly before the summer, to be able to get a decision around a contingency around that.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Councillor Flaherty, you're content. Okay. Next up, Alderman Baxter.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, look, just a couple of small points on the numbers. I don't want to, labour the point, but those numbers, I think, are a wee bit skew, if to put it mildly. Well, unless there was 140 people at the Georgian Festival in 2024, I'm saying that wouldn't be good value for money, Brian. There were only 140 people there. So that's probably a mistake. The other thing I want to put, it's only a small issue. The Warringstown one this year, there was actually a weather warning all day. Now, whilst the weather was good on the night, I think it put a lot of people off. They were going to cancel the event right up until an hour and a half or 2 hours before the event. So just worth maybe putting in the second column there, a weather impact. And then Donaghcloney numbers were down, which I'm surprised at, because I thought that we were going to have more this year, because everybody wanted to come and see the smallest Christmas tree in the borough, but probably the smallest Christmas tree in Northern Ireland. But I think they're expecting big things next year when we get the big artificial one that the council's going to pass. That's all I wanted to say, Chair. And
okay, Alderman Baxter, and of course, in terms of what's happening next year, we're taking Dromore as the template in terms of a good tree. But anyway, yeah, I didn't detect a question in there. Councillor O'Hanlon.
Thank you, Chair, and can I thank all the officers involved in making the preparations for Christmas. Just to note in relation to the numbers for Katie, yes, the numbers were down, but it's because one of the local primary schools had a show on with 600 people at it. So that was what was happened. I know that notice the director referred to having a workshop before the summer break, and I think it would be useful if we can pin down the dates for 2026 early on to try and avoid any clashes of dates. And I note Elaine's comments around vibrancy and extra support in the towns in the run up to Christmas, and I hope that that includes areas beyond the four large towns in the Armagh City, the Lurgan, the Portadown, and Banbridge.
Okay, Councillor O'Hanlon, thank you for that. Members, I have no further lights on this one, so we'll move on to item 3.2, Maker Support Programme and Pop-Up Shop Initiative. Again, it's an item for information. The assumption is that members have read the papers. Are there any questions? Alderman Greenfield.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to welcome this report coming back. I had raised it before. Just one thing I wanted to ask about it on it. I was reading through it there, and I know it'll be quite a bit of work to do of who actually qualifies for this. How are we actually looking at that, and are we trying to keep it businesses in the borough and local people that are already trading? Because I know there's quite a few different criteria to get in, which is great. And how are we identifying then where we're actually going to put it at the start? Is it anywhere we have our sales, or is it looking at, I know quite a bit of work goes on in that there.
Okay, thank you. Going to bring Elaine in, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Alderman Greenfield, for your question. Yes, in terms of the businesses that we are trying to attract for this really innovative scheme, is we are trying to focus primarily on businesses that are based in the borough. So it's homegrown, artisan, food, craft manufacturers. So really the timeline of actually trying to attract those folks is around, we're looking at a pre-market engagement session with local businesses, and really what that entails is we'll be working with our artisan marketeers, the people who are actually joined up for this year's artisan markets and who joined last year. So we have a database of around 70 businesses at the moment. So we will be doing pre-market engagement with them to look at the application form, the guidance notes, the funding model, the layout, all of those important documents that we have been working in the background, trying to bring those people along with us in the process. And we will then be launching the Maker Support Programme, which will recruit 50 businesses in April. So we're planning a launch, an in-person launch, to try to bring the whole thing to life and encourage people to join in and participate. And we'll be issuing our application forms in April as well. And then we will be selecting people. So we're trying to include as many people as possible. So we're looking at different models to try to have as many businesses. So we have been identifying and we have been meeting with landlords and we have been looking at property. Unfortunately, we have no property within the town centres that the council owns, but we are working with private landlords, and it's just trying to identify the right site and in the towns, and that's been probably one of the stumbling blocks, but we are making progress. So the whole programme will be launched in April.
Okay, thank you, Elaine. Alderman Greenfield, quick supplementary.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Elaine. Yeah, I think it is a fantastic scheme and very innovative. And I agree with you on getting the right site and the right thing. It's also probably a lot of working into the right business in there that's not displacing somebody that was there or somebody very similar around it, So it's quite a complex thing, but I think it'll be really, really good, and I'm really encouraged to see it coming through. So thank you for all the work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Greenfield. Next up is Councillor Kyle Savage.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sort of reminded a wee bit back to the SOAR ABC Rural Development Days, Elaine, whenever we had discussed a lot of these topics. It is good to see it's a great initiative, and I suppose there's a lot of businesses that are working from home, and it's to try and help them to the commercialisation, to the next step along their business journey. And I know that's what we had talked greatly about back in the day. So I'm sure this would help many businesses that are still in that infancy stage, into commercialisation, into the bigger scale things, and it would be great to see that. It will be great. We have plenty of vacant buildings, unfortunately, within our town centres, so if they can be capitalised and used on that, it'll be great to see. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Savage, thank you for that. Councillor Ian Wilson, you're next.
Thank you, Chair. I think when this initially come, it was very welcome, and this idea of these pop-up shops. But well, my thinking is, and I brought it up at the time this was initially brought forward, that we have to look at our smaller towns. Our own DAA, probably Guildford and Rathfriland, have a number of vacant properties, and some of these pop-up shops might bring a wee bit of vitality to those towns. And there's a lot of artisan producers within our rural areas as well. So it's welcome, and maybe my suggestions aren't for this stage in the programme, but I think we need to be looking at our smaller towns that are struggling for footfall and struggling to get businesses on their high streets. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. And we have Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair, and Elaine, thank you for that update. It is really good to see this progressing and that we are moving forward to a launch date. This will really support entrepreneurs in this sector because they are essentially entrepreneurs. They are starting their own business in their specialist niche areas, and this will really support the growth of those small industries. My question just is around communications. We need sort of for the pop-up shop stage to stimulate local demand in wherever the location of that pop-up shop is in our particular Tier 1 towns. So just what is the communications really around that to make this very sustainable for those that are chosen to go into the pop-up shop, because that would be central to the success of this programme for Council and for those who partake in the programme itself.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Elaine.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Ferguson. You're absolutely right. Communications is so important, and it's integral to the success of this particular initiative, because we have to get the right look and feel, and we have to have the right brand. So we are working very closely with our design team to come up with a new brand, which will be part of the launch. And then all of the pop-up shops will have the same look and feel. We have been working with one of the chambers. We've been working with Lurgan Working Group and some of the representatives there. And they have been giving their expertise to help us with a look and a feel and a layout, which we really appreciate. And it's that collaborative approach with the working groups and the chambers and the enterprise partners, because we can't deliver this on our own. It's such an ambitious programme, but we are very, very keen that everything is branded and that there will be a really strong communication plan, not just digital, but looking at other platforms as well and other mediums, and looking at our tannoy systems in our town centres and looking at outdoor advertising and all those important things. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Elaine. Councillor Ferguson, you're content enough. Okay, next up we have Alderman Barry.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to Elaine. And in principle, yes, happy enough with it in relation to the Tier 1 towns. But I'm asking for forgiveness from the Chair. But when we're talking about initiatives, but he's a rural man, so he'll appreciate it. In relation to initiatives then for the Tier 2 and Tier 3, I know this obviously is not on the cards, but surely, as Councillor Wilson has mentioned, in relation to the rural towns, it's looking at something there. And I think one thing that would be high up in the agenda would be the shopfront schemes in relation to providing a scheme there. And I would just like to ask Elaine if she's any update on that, because I know it was something that we raised before. But when one thinks of Market Hill, Rathfriland and Guildford, with that new COVID settlement grant that's coming out and it's already been launched in Rathfriland, is that being considered for Rathfriland, Guildford and Market Hill? because I think it would be something very beneficial when a scheme is already coming, that whilst it's the footpaths and the aesthetics around the smaller towns, it would be good to provide a grant as well at the same time for the business to avail of, but also stretching out to Tandragee and other areas. Thank you, Chair.
You're very welcome, Alderman Barry. Thank you. Going to bring in Elaine first and then Paul.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Alderman Berry, for your question. Yes, in terms of the shopfront scheme, we are looking at future initiatives. We've prepared a paper for next month's committee for a paint scheme initially, and then with a view to demonstrating evidence and support and need for a borough-wide shopfront scheme for the rural areas and for right across the borough. So yes, it's something that we get positive feedback time and time again. Any engagement that we have with local businesses are looking shop fronts, they're looking paint schemes. So it's definitely on the agenda, and you'll have a paper, a committee in April.
Okay, thank you, Elaine. It just goes to show that the answers are always ready before the question is asked, Alderman Barry. Going to bring in Paul, please. Paul Tamara.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Alderman Berry, for your question. I suppose, as Elaine has alluded to, obviously there's proposals internally in Council or EDR are trying to bring forward. We know some of the stuff that we've been trying to bring forward around sort of makers and those sorts of things and shopfront schemes are probably, within our own council budget, which is probably pretty minor in terms of the things that we can, I suppose, influence and do. But what we do know is that there's bigger, I suppose, central government funding pots that are being looked at and developed up to the moment. You'll be aware of the Shaping Sustainable Places piece of work. We've been recently updated in relation to that, and potential funding for that coming down the line, looking at certainly around the rural areas and stuff like that, and we hope to be able to take advantage of that. We also know that the rural policy is working its way through and being development, and anticipate a fund coming out in relation to that, potentially to help around, I suppose, improvements around rural towns and villages, etc. So we are reliant quite a bit on that coming forward. There's probably going to be an ask from Council around some sort of contribution funding to anything that will come forward as part of that. But working through corporate PMO and all those sorts of things, we probably would just want to be in a state of readiness to be able to take advantage of that when it comes forward.
Alderman Barry, briefly supplementary.
Thank you very much to Paul and to Elaine. I appreciate that. And just one maybe item for the agenda at some meeting, Chair, in relation to the empty to occupied scheme. Could we get an update on that? Just because we're talking about initiatives about town centres, and to me, I know the department failed in this, not us. It was the restrictions that they put on, but I think the Chair and others would appreciate that, because it would be good to just tease into that a bit more to see if we can help our town centres even more.
Thank you, Alderman Barry. Point well made. Councillor O'Hanlon.
Thank you, Chair, and can I add my thanks to Elaine for the report, but also particularly the confirmation that the painting scheme will come forward to a committee next month. I know Councillor Barry had talked about the shopfront scheme, but I've long been an advocate of the paint scheme, because to me it's lower value, but it actually gives a bigger return in terms of our town centres. One thing that would have happened before, and I'm mindful of the scope and the budget implications, Elaine, but if I can ask you to look at where you have on the main town centres, on the main streets, there are some areas where you would have an odd residential property, and it's great that all the shops then get a paint up, but the residential property sitting in the middle of it hasn't benefited from that. Then it actually stands out like a sore thumb. So if there was something that could be built into that, maybe a very strict criteria, but maybe if that element could be looked at that as well. But all in that, look, welcome it, and particularly welcome the focus on out into rural towns and villages.
Okay, Councillor O'Hanlon, thank you for that, and I'm sure Elaine and the officers will have taken note of those comments, so thank you. Okay, members, that's just off 3.2, so we're on to agenda item 4, sort of Head of Tourism, Arts and Culture report. Couple or 3 items for decision. First one is 4.1, the ABC Heritage Strategy. I'm going to bring in Brian Johnson. Brian.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. So this report, as the Chair has said, relates to what's called Art on the Doorstep initiative, which is led by the National Gallery in London. And that is their plan to do a touring exhibition across the UK in 2027 or 2025 to 27. There's been 2 locations selected in Northern Ireland, ourselves in Derry City and Strabane District Council. So again, the plan is that the gallery will supply up to reproductions of up to 30 artworks in their collection, and the initiative will happen in theory with us in spring 2027 if members agree. There is a plan, and you've heard a number of reports recently, and it's received favourable feedback in terms of building community arts programmes around this. So taking these as a staple, and then we build a programme around it. So that will be part of the plan with the team, and that will link in with the likes of F.E. McWilliam Gallery, with Marketplace Theatre and museums and other. In terms of costs for this, I think the National Gallery are contributing the first £5,000 for the reproductions. We estimate that it will cost in the region of £5,000 for ourselves to make then the reproductions and get these out on site. So there's 2 recommendations before members. In effect, this is an initial paper, but the 2 recommendations is agreed to partner with the National Gallery Art on Our Doorstep initiative, and the second one is to agree that a further report is brought back regarding locations for the exhibits. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for that. I've currently 3 speakers. First of all, Alderman Ian Burns online.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Brian, for that report. I'm happy to propose that both elements of your recommendation. I think that if it's next year, it would be a great way to launch the extension to the F.E. McWilliam Gallery. So I'm happy to propose it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Burns. You were coming through loud and clear there. Good. So next of all, we have Councillor Ian Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second Alderman Burns' proposal. Just on the point of initiatives going forward and development from this, I know my colleague, Alderman Paul Greenfield, had raised the issue of the old Banbridge Town Hall. We're looking at Art on Our Doorstep. That was a facility that local artists had used previously to display works and whatever. And I know we had to ask a question about the lack of use of that premises. Is there any developments in that? I think a report was to come forward, but have any updates on making that facility a bit more user-friendly to back to what it was? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wilson. Going to bring in Brian again, please. Brian.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. That was a really good segue. So that we have been doing a lot of work in the background in terms of the old town hall, and we had anticipated bringing a report back this month. The officer who looks after the old town hall is actually retiring at the end of March, Clive Rippon. And actually we've had a good conversation about the diary is actually quite busy. It is quite busy, and there are a number of groups I think that are using it regularly. Not as busy at the weekends probably, and that's been some of the queries from members at times. But I think again we're looking at how do we, and it was what we suggested we would do is to bring back how can we have it used even more. So the diary at this stage has been reviewed, and I'm working with colleagues in community development to see how we come up with a plan that'll hopefully get a lot more usage of it. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Wilson, you content and relaxed about that. Councillor Scott Armstrong's up next.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Brian, for the report. I am pleased to see that Folly Glen is mentioned in Appendix 1, and I'm hoping that it will feature heavily within this Art on Your Doorstep, because it is on the doorstep of many residents within Armagh as it runs from Hamilton's Bond to Newry. It's somewhere where I've been advocating a lot, and I've had a lot of conversations with you in tourism aspect of how we can utilise this space and probably promote it more, because a lot of people probably in this room don't know it even exists. So I believe that this initiative could be the ideal time for council to sort of relaunch the Folly as a council asset and somewhere to visit within Armagh and give it the investment and it deserves and it's missed out on for the last number of years. So I'm proposing this evening for council officers to discuss with the other departments in council on how we can invest and utilise the Folly site before the Art on Your Doorstep initiative begins in 2027. This will include improving footpaths, general tidy up, and work collectively with the County Museum and the local community group there, the Friends of the Folly, to tell the story of the Folly in line with this Art on Your Doorstep. So hopefully we can come work towards getting the Folly up to a good standard before this arrives. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ferguson. I'm going to bring in Alderman Greenfield.
Thank you. I take back one wee bit. Brian, I was up busy laughing at your comment about Councillor Wilson, the segue. What did you actually say? The report's coming next month? Is that what you said? No? I heard something about the report's meant to be this month and then next month, but
Brian?
I missed it. I was laughing, sir.
No, thank you, Alderman Greenfield. Yes, we had anticipated bringing it this month, so we're working through just the finer details. It is aligning with the community development realignment of staffing as well. So there's it's going to take a wee bit. I think there will be an interim period before we have a final sort of solution in place. So I imagine over the summer we'll have an interim solution in place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brian. And just would you have a comment on Councillor Armstrong's ask, please?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Armstrong, for the comment. And you have approached me a number of times about the space, and I think the National Gallery people did visit that location, and I think because it's so residential, they were keen. You know, they liked the layout of that and how it aligned with the local community. So, no, we're happy to bring that. I'm happy to talk to colleagues in council and bring that back. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Brian. Councillor Armstrong, you're happy with that. So 4.1 is a decision item proposed by Alderman Ian Burns and seconded by Councillor Ian Wilson. Agreed, members? Item 4.2, the Jaipur Literature Festival. Brian, again, please.
Thank you, Chair, and I appreciate this report is just landed slightly. We were approached in November by the Jaipur Literary Festival, which is the biggest, I think, literary festival in the world. We've said in the report one of the biggest, but the biggest literary festival in the world. They do every year they go into different countries and try and bring a programme forward. So they have approached the Arts Council of Northern Ireland and the Department for Foreign Affairs in Dublin and would like to bring that to Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland in this current year. So the plan is that, they had approached us in November and then have followed up literally in the last week with the anticipation that the festival will move from Belfast to Armagh City to Dundalk to Dublin. And again, there's some dates in the report here. The plan is, again, that they would like to use the Marketplace Theatre and the Palace for a reception, as well as the Robinson Library in Armagh. So the plan would be that there's either a free concert staged in the Marketplace Theatre or a much reduced rate. And again, they want to create a sort of a festival feel around this event, and I think it's a really good event to be aligned with, and it's so the recommendation before members is that members agree to host the Jaipur Literary Festival in May 2026. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Brian. Members, it's a decision item, so I need a proposer and I need a seconder. Councillor Armstrong proposed. I need a seconder, members. Councillor Ferguson seconded. All in agreement. Councillor O'Hanlon, you want in? That was perhaps 2 seconds. So, moving on, 4.3, request to receive a deputation from Armagh Observatory and Planetarium. Brian, again, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just go straight to the recommendation. As recommended, members consider receiving a deputation from Armagh Observatory and Planetarium to present on their plans for the redevelopment of the planetarium and provide an update to historic astronomical observatories of Ireland World Heritage Site bid at the April committee. And members this has been discussed previously in terms of the UNESCO bid that's going forward for the Royal Sites of Ireland, but also for the observatory and planetarium. So the request is to receive a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Alderman Barry, you're up first.
Yes, I'm just happy to propose that we bring them along if that's required.
Thank you, Alderman Barry. Next up online, Councillor O'Hanlon.
Thank you, Chair, and thank Brian for the report. Absolutely happy to second that recommendation, and we're delighted to see the team from the Observatory and Planetarium and Council to give us a presentation. And Brian said that in context around the World Heritage Site bid. Can I ask that as part of that we get a full update from Brian and whatever officers are involved in relation to the World Heritage bid for Navan as well, or the UNESCO bid? I think it would be both actually run in tandem and both actually complement each other, and we're probably unique in that we are having so much focus on one location. Those of us who think of the important city of Armagh anyway.
Thank you for that, Councillor
But
O'Hanlon.
it's great to see.
You were certainly very ingenious there in terms of the Navan piece, but going to bring Brian back in.
Just firstly, thanks to members for endorsing this. Secondly, there was a really detailed report brought by Sam Dalzell to governance recently on both the World Heritage bids and where they were in the process. So, I mean, I'm happy to bring something further if that's required. Probably hasn't moved an awful lot since that report. Thank you.
Okay, Brian, thank you for that. So, members, we're on item 4.3, proposed by Alderman Barry, seconded by Councillor O'Hanlon, all in agreement. Thank you. Agenda item 5, correspondence. There is none. And then agenda item 6, any other business. And I have one item of any other business, and it's bringing in Councillor O'Hanlon, and the subject is the All-Ireland flag. Councillor O'Hanlon.
Sorry, Chair. The sound has just gone from this perspective. Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you. Can you hear?
Yep, Chair.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Over to you.
Chair, I'll be brief, Chair. Members should be aware that Belfast this week was confirmed as the host for the All-Ireland FLA, not only for this year, but for again in 2027. The FLA is the largest, or one of the largest cultural festivals on this island, attracting tens of thousands of visitors and delivering a significant economic and cultural boost to the host city and the surrounding areas. Whilst Belfast is the main host, I believe there's a real opportunity for our own borough to benefit from the wider bounce from the event, which would generate in terms of tourism, hospitality, local businesses and cultural participation. I'd ask that officers investigate what opportunities exist for our own council area to attract visitors maybe travelling to the FLA, and then also showcase our own rich musical, cultural and heritage assets. In particular, I'd like officers to explore whether there's a programme of complementary events that could be developed around the time of the FLA. And there's local partners there in Coltis, Kilturrier, and local branches, schools and arts groups. But look, if I'd ask that the team bring back a report that we could consider at the earliest opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor O'Hanlon, thanks for that. I'm looking at Paul and looking at Brian and getting agreeing nods. So,
thank you, Chair.
Going to bring in Paul briefly. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Happy enough to bring a report back. Conscious, if it's for 2026, we're conscious of budgets, stuff like that have already been set around programs and those sorts of things. So, but listen, we're happy to explore the options and bring a report back if that's okay, Councillor Hanlon.
Okay, Councillor O'Hanlon, you've heard Paul, so going to bring in Alderman Baxter.
Chair, I'm just conscious that AOB items can't really commit the council to spend, but I was saying, is there spend attached to doing that report or not? And given the budgetary concerns this year, obviously it wouldn't be for this year anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Hello. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Alderman Baxter, for the question. For 2026, the Tourism NI have launched an initiative of joint marketing and promotion in terms of the opportunities around the FLA. So we have been previously requested again by some members, and we have engaged with that. And again, it's with a view to particularly filling bed spaces in the borough. And again, from a hospitality point of view, we see those are the two main beneficiaries. You know, particularly the likes of Lurgan, where you have the direct train link and all of that. So we have been working with Tourism NI in that regard, at no real additional cost.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Going to bring in Paul Tomati. Paul.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Alderman Baxton. Listen, we'll go and look at the report and clarify, around the AOB items and stuff like that. So there may be opportunities to be able to external funding, those sorts of things, but let us explore that. And obviously, we wouldn't want to breach any standing orders around that. So.
Thank you, Paul. And I'm going to bring in Councillor O'Hanlon again.
Yeah, Chair, I'm aware of standing orders and didn't ask any spend. I asked for a report.
Thank you, Councillor O'Hanlon. Alderman Baxter.
Yeah, well, you might want to go and read them again because, reports cost money and reports cost officer time. And whenever the director's ready said that in terms of the 2026 estimates rating process, it falls outside of that. So, whilst there mightn't be a direct spend to what he's asking for, obviously the ask will be for a spend that doesn't really sit outside of estimates, but in terms of standing orders, it sits outside of that as well. So it's just really from a process point of view. A request like that really should come on a notice of motion. But maybe Councillor O'Hanlon wants to go and read the standing orders maybe before he comes back to full council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Baxter, for that. And members, at this stage, I have no further lights on, so declare the meeting closed. Thank you for your participation and safe home.